Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deeper seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Evening all, Jim here. Welcome to the sixth in our series of live streams where we're getting ready for the next Unit 2, BTEC National Business Unit 2. And a warm welcome to, in particular, lots of regulars who've been to one or more of the previous 5 sessions. And what we've been doing in these sessions is working our way through a practice case study called Shine Beauty, excuse me, and having a look and think about what the examiner is looking for in each of the, what we know as the AFs, or assessment focus or foci. And what that really means is here's how the marks are allocated. Here's what the examiner is looking to award positively based on what you write in your 2 documents in Unit 2. And I thought what would be helpful is maybe spend half an hour maybe just doing a little bit of a summary of what we've done so far, but also a chance to ask any specific questions. And looking at the live chat, we've had lots of questions already entered into the live chat, so I'll keep an eye on those. I've already picked out 3 or 4 which we can get on the screen and answer very quickly. So please do ask your questions. Maybe put a Q colon in front of it in the live chat if it's a question that you'd like me to answer. I'll do my best to do as many as possible. We've already got Karen and Alison and lots of other experienced Unit 2 teachers in the live chat as well, doing some great work helping out. So look out for their comments in the live chat. There's some fantastic advice being given. And well, let's make a quick start. Don't forget, this is recorded, by the way. So if you don't catch any of it, or if you're watching on catch up, please do ask the questions in the comments. As normal, we'll do our best to get them responded to. Just a quick summary of what Unit 2 is all about. I thought what I'd do is just go through this quick point summary and then just go through each of the assessment focuses, literally a minute on each, just to explain what the examiner's looking for. Obviously, there's a separate video for 5 of them, the 5 that count for the most marks. So, sorry, six of them. I'll explain all in about a minute. So don't forget, when you come to do Part A, this is where you get to see the research pack. That's at least 2 hours under low control at your school or college. That's a minimum. You can take it home. You can continue to look at it, research. You can use the internet. You can access your folders. So, for example, people are asking about the template for the 2 pages notes. If that's in your folders or on your drive, you can access that. That's fine. All that's good stuff. The only thing you can't then do is bring in a pre-prepared marketing plan or answer into Part B. So you can bring your notes in, you can annotate the research pack. And when we get into Part B, which is the actual exam on Thursday morning, I think, is it? Hopefully I've got my dates right this time. You produce 2 documents. One's called Activity 1, one's called Activity 2. And within each of those activities, there are different marks available. Now, let's just quickly go through those 2 activities, actual exam bit, just to summarise. Firstly, Activity 1, 34 marks out of 70. So there's 70 marks to play for in a 3-hour exam. That's the minimum. Obviously, lots of learners have maybe a little bit of extra time for different reasons. And also, centres are allowed, if they wish, to schedule a short comfort break or rest break in between at some stage during the 3 hours. If your centre allows you to do that, that's a useful thing, just to have a rest, gather your thoughts. Activity 1, there are 4 assessment foci. We've not done AF1 in our live streams because it's just given. The examiner looks at what you've written. Is it well written? Is it logically laid out? Have you used appropriate terminology? And if you have, you'll get between 1 and 4 marks. The average is actually about 3.5. So most students do really well on their layout and their writing. 4 marks going for that. That's why we've not covered it in our specific sessions, because it's just given based on your reports. Then the chunky marks start to arrive. AF2, this is where you choose which option. And by the way, you can start with an introduction if you wish, and I think that's a good thing to do, and maybe even explain which option you're going to be working on. So there's not like, you don't have to have a heading that says AF2, maybe a nice introduction. Then we get into coming up with our aims and objectives. This is where we choose the option. The aims are given to you in Part B. We'll find out what the business is trying to achieve. That's the aims. What you then need to come up with is some specific objectives, fully develop them, explain why that you want to achieve them and how they link to the aims and how they link to your marketing mix. 2 to 3 of those, 8 marks. Then we move on to analysing what the research pack told us. So analysing and commenting on the key themes from the secondary and primary research, and including in that at least a sentence or 2 considering the reliability and validity of the research, particularly the primary research. So again, we've been through that in our AF3 session. Hopefully that's useful. And then finally, our justification. And this is where we use 2 models. You can use 3, waste of time, but 2 models. Don't use 1 because you can't get to Mark Band 4 if you only use 1. We use 2 models to then support our objectives and support our proposed marketing mix, which comes in Activity 2. So again, we've been through that. Most, I'd say 99.976% of students use SWOT analysis. About 96% use PESTEL. But as we mentioned before, an increasing number of students are making very effective use of the product lifecycle. And that's not a bad way to actually, instead of PESTEL, it's not a bad way to save yourself some time, to give yourself even more time for the big one, the marketing mix in Activity 2. I am a fan, as I say in the live chat, of the product lifecycle approach, but that's just me. You may find it easier to do PESTEL. So that's Activity 1. And I think the way to think about this is just to break up that report. Think about, okay, well, I've got, I need to have a little introduction. I need to make sure my headings are good. I need to consider aims and objectives. What was the research telling me, the key themes? What are my 2 models? Let's apply the 2 models and just break up your document into those kind of headings. And then that's it. You're addressing the assessment foci. And the examiner is going to be really happy. And then halfway through the exam, you should be thinking, right, it's time to move on now to Activity 2. Where there are 36 marks on offer. And again, the first, it's actually the last 4 marks. Strange the way they set the mark scheme. The last 4 marks for layout. This is the chunky one. This is the session we did on Friday evening when we looked at the marketing mix. And this is the 7 Ps. But what it really is the 4 Ps plus the other 3 Ps. So you have to make sure that you do a really good job on each of the 4 Ps: product, place, price, promotion. And then where relevant, if it is relevant, and it probably is, also have a go at maybe a more limited attempt at, but have a go at process, physical environment, and people, which are the other threes. But the key there is to interweave the research, to use the context, to link your proposed marketing mix with your aims and objectives, and then also to interweave your marketing message. So you've got to have a marketing message. I would tend to do that at the start of AF5. Say, this is what we're trying to achieve with our marketing campaign, maybe a strap line, here's how it links. And I think if you can do that, then that's really going to get you a big chunk of those 20 marks. I'll look on the, by the way, I'll look on the live chat, lots of questions coming in, so I'll have a good go at going through those. AF6, just to finish this little summary off, AF6 is our budget, and it's only 8 marks. So you see you need to be spending almost 3 times as much time in the marketing mix as you do for your budget. And this really is just taking the 2 or 3 parts of your campaign, your marketing campaign, maybe your email marketing or your competition or radio advertising or whatever it is that you decide you want to do. Just explaining what it is you're going to do, why you're doing it, when you're doing it, and what the assumptions are, what it might cost. And the key message from our session yesterday was think about the wider costs. Don't just say advertising £20,000. Break it down. Maybe £5,000 for writing the copy or coming up with the design or the photography, all that kind of stuff. So break the cost down, and even better, include some calculations. The examiner does want you to be realistic with your costings, but they don't have a checklist of things to say whether it's realistic or not. They just need to know that it looks about right. And that's why the research pack has some useful indicators in the media pack at the end to help you come up with some ideas. The timetable, lots of students asking in the live chat already about Gantt charts. So we'll mention those briefly, but don't forget the timetable is just 4 marks. And all the examiner wants is some information as to when the marketing activities will take place, when they start, when they finish, how long they last, and why they're being done. You don't have to produce a Gantt chart for that. You could simply say, I don't know, email marketing campaign will start at month 1 and end in month 5. And it will involve 5 days of preparation time, and it will take place throughout the period. You don't need to draw that on a chart or a table. As long as you've got enough information that explains the timetable, that's fine. So don't get too worried about Gantt charts, but there is a quick way of doing them, which we'll maybe discover briefly. And lastly, I said there's 4 marks going for format in the same way there was for Activity 1. Well, there are, except this time it's not the first AF, it's the last. And it's called presentation, but basically it's exactly the same as Activity 1, up to 4 marks going for how you've laid things out. And in particular, have you used appropriate marketing terminology? That's the key. And there's where your 70 marks come from, team. And if, depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking for a pass, well, you need to be getting as close to 30 as you can based on previous sittings of this paper. I mean, students are getting better at this paper, I think. Therefore, it's possible that the standard might be a little bit higher this year. We don't know. But 30 out of 70, easily attainable, as long as you have a good go at all the assessment foci. If you're looking for merit, you need to be in Mark Band 3 or 4 as often as possible. And if you're looking for distinction, really, in Mark Band 4 for marketing mix, and maybe also for aims and objectives, justification, in other words, all the big ones. 55 out of 70 is a big score, but it's doable. No doubt it's all about that. There we go. So hopefully that's useful. We can dive in and out of bits and bobs. Let's get back onto the screen here, and I'll see if I can just pick out a few questions as they're coming in. Victoria was early doors on the live chat asking, do we need to write an introduction? Well, I think you don't have to, but I think it's a really good thing to do because you can almost sort of think about it before you go in. So you might just write a sentence or 2 about what the business is, about what you're going to do in the report for Activity 1, and then an introduction, just a couple of lines in your introduction for Activity 2. That might be the place also to mention the fact that you have chosen one of the 2 options given to you and which one it is. And then you get into your aims and objectives. So don't spend too long in the introduction, but it's not a bad shout to do that. What have we got here? Let's pick a few more out. Aaron, I'll stick Aaron's on because he's the teacher's pret, and he's only here for the first 10 minutes. Do we have to link the objective in the marketing mix? My teacher says we have to link back to them. Well, your teacher's giving you great advice there. Yeah, absolutely. Our marketing mix, which is AF5, the key is to link always, always, always link your proposed marketing mix back to your aim and objective, because that's part of justifying, isn't it? Let's say you are looking to run a price promotion by offering 50% off an introductory treatment at a beauty salon. Well, that's part of your mix in price, isn't it? You could also argue it's linked to promotion, but that's part of your pricing strategy. Why would you do that? Link it back maybe to an objective which is around acquiring new customers or clients. So all of the time, use your objectives and the stated aims of the business to help justify the choices that you make. That's really important. Let's have a look. Let's pick out a few more questions here. Apologies, I've been chatting away for 5 minutes and missing out on some of the questions. Casey's asking, are we allowed to bring in a plan into the Part A on Wednesday? You can bring into Part A whatever you wish. So whatever's in your notes, your folders, previous mock exams, exam questions, papers, whatever is in your possession that you've been given, you are allowed to access, including the internet, in Part A. Part A is there for you to become familiar with the industry and to start to think about the industry and the market. And if there are checklists or ideas or anything that you've had in your notes or you've got access to on your drive, absolutely fine. The only thing you can't do is access that kind of material when you actually do the exam in Part B. The only thing you can do there is your copy of the research pack and your 2 pages of notes. But yeah, on Part A, it's low control. You can have complete access to whatever you wish. Let's pick out a few more questions here. Laura, we might sort of move in and out a bit here. Laura's saying, for the budget and timetable, can we put them together? Absolutely, you can. So you don't have to have a section that says timetable. You could have a section that says budget and timetable. That's absolutely fine. The examiner will assess whether you have met the mark scheme requirements, and as long as you're saying here are the budget elements, and you could even say, and by the way, the proposed timetable for each is included in it. No problem at all. Let's pick out a few more. Let's pick DG here. Apologies, these are some of the ones which have come in latest here. So do you summarise the pages in the research pack for the first test part in your own words and talk about the advantages? Well, it's a long question. So what you're referring to is AF3. And what you need to do in Activity 1 is to draw out the key themes from the research pack. So it could be there are 2 or 3 key themes from the secondary research that you want to highlight. And similarly, there might be another couple of key themes from the primary research. So that's what you're trying to do. So if you watch our session on AF3, we just gave you a couple of examples. I might be able to find one whilst we're... I've got all my different... So let me show you. So for example, let's say we were writing AF3 on Thursday. Here is an example of writing a paragraph about the secondary research. And I suggested that a key theme from the secondary research was that for Shine Beauty, there was this growing demand for pampering and luxury treatments. And I was explaining why that was important. Similarly, I picked out a key theme from the primary research and also talked about the limitations and the reliability. So that's what you're trying to do. So just coming back to your question, it's not really about writing a generic answer that says the advantages and disadvantages of using primary and secondary. That's not what the exam's about. It's trying to draw on the findings of what's in the research pack, if you see what I mean. So hopefully that's useful. Okay, good. Let's pick some more out as we go here. On Wednesday, are we allowed to start Activity 1 at home? No, you can't. No. And don't forget with your 2 pages of notes. So Part B has 2 activities, 1 and 2. That's when you're writing your 2 documents. That's when you're scoring marks. You're not allowed to bring into or start preparing into Part B any kind of pre-prepared answer, a marketing plan, a budget or timeline specifically. So you start with literally a clean sheet of paper. But what you are allowed in your 2 sides of notes is to bring in some headings and some suggested maybe aid memoirs and things to think about. As long as it's not a pre-prepared plan, campaign or budget, then you could have some headings in there which will help you get off to a flying start when you start the exam. Miki's asking, do we have to write the 3 SMART objectives based on what's written in part B? Absolutely. Absolutely. So what we need to do, and that's why you can't go in with a pre-prepared plan, because we don't know about the business. We only see that in part B. So part B will tell you what the business is trying to achieve. Those are the aims. There might be 2 or 3 things it's trying to do. Usually they'll be based around expansion or sales or whatever it is, but it will tell you in part B. And it will tell you the 2 options they are thinking about to achieve those aims. What you then need to do is to come up with objectives that are specific to that business and ideally SMART, as in something which is specific, measurable, realistic, time-bound, achievable. Now, there's no marks in the MARC scheme for being smart. There's nothing in the MARC scheme that says the objectives have to be smart, but a good objective will be one, isn't it, that is specific and hopefully is relevant to the aim. So yeah, exactly that. You pick the objectives based on what they tell you in part B, rather than just having an objective that says increase sales by 10%. Meaningless. It's not relevant, is it, to the business? Ads is saying, is there any reason why the notes won't be allowed to be taken in? Yes, if they include any attempt at pre-prepared marketing plans, timetables or budgets. So just don't include them. Don't even try. Our template's not a bad one. A lot of people use it, but there are others. So use that. Are the 2 pages of notes double-sided? Well, 2 pages is... it depends how you print them out. So it's either going to be 2 pages, 1 side each, or 1 page double-sided. Yeah, but you're allowed 2 pages of notes on A4 paper. And also you can also annotate your copy of the research pack. So that's a good thing to do, highlighting maybe elements that you want to include for SWOT or PESTEL or whatever. Good question. Can you use a calculator in part B? Absolutely, yeah, of course you can, yeah. A calculator is absolutely fine. It can't be an online calculator because you're not allowed online. But that would be a useful thing to have, wouldn't it? If you're doing a couple of calculations to put some costings together in activity 2, no reason why not. Are we allowed to take in an essay structure as part of our notes? Well, I mean, you're not writing an essay at all here, but what you are allowed to do in your notes is to include some headings, some subheadings, and that kind of stuff. So that's fine. That's been confirmed several times by Pearson. What have we got here? Let's have a look. Can you take the research pack home and annotate at home? Yes, you can. However, just an asterisk on that one. Some centres have so many learners taking part B in the exam that it's just logistically impossible to check everyone's copy of the research pack when they come in. So they may impose a restriction on you. They may not, but in theory, you can take it home and continue to work on it independently. Now, here's a question from Husky Games. For justification, that's AF4. Is it best to do SWOT and PESTEL? What do you think in the live chat? Be interested to hear your thoughts. Anyone going to have a go at something different? There's lots of questions coming in, so I'll try and answer them as we go. What do we think? As CFC says, type 1 for SWOT and PESTEL, maybe type 2 for SWOT and product lifecycle. So the answer is the vast majority of students do SWOT and PESTEL, and that's absolutely fine. And there are no marks for doing one or the other or neither. You can use any analytical model you wish. I would all day long do SWOT, because the thing about SWOT is it draws on 2 different parts of information, doesn't it? So, for example, our strengths and our opportunities are drawn from our part B, what we're told in the business. So let's just quickly show you that. So strengths and weaknesses, we find out about the business, don't we? What they're good at, and we can compare them with the industry to find out where there's a weakness. So that's a really good thing to use, because that makes it really easy to write and link to your objectives and to your marketing mix. And similarly, opportunities and threats, so we can be ready for those, can't we? Because we've read the research pack, we've picked out some of the opportunities, we've picked out some of the external threats to the business. So we'll be ready for those by the time we go to part B. So all day long, I'd write a SWOT analysis. It's up to you to decide whether you do it in table format. If you do, make sure you use sentences. I'm a fan of maybe just little headings and saying, here's the key themes, the key threats, the key strengths. PESTEL, coming back to PESTEL, It's absolutely fine. You don't have to go through every letter of PESTEL. You could say that, the three most important elements of the PESTEL model as applied to the case study are. That gives you a bit longer to apply the situation. The danger with PESTEL is you end up repeating yourself. An opportunity and a threat likely to be something you'd also want to write about in PESTEL, but there's nothing to stop you if you don't want to. If you do want to. So just watch out on PESTEL. The danger is you end up writing 2 pages. A lot of it's repetition, and you don't need to write 2 pages. That's why I'm a fan, as you know, of product lifecycle. But as long as you use 2 analytical models, and most importantly, apply them to the research and then link them to your proposed marketing strategy, that's what the examiner wants to do. Aaron's saying, by the way, Aaron, I thought you were leaving after 10 minutes. Good to see us hanging around. You do, even if you see a lot of people doing product lifecycle, but you haven't learnt it, it's okay to choose PESTEL. I'm too right. I can't disagree with that. The vast majority of students will use PESTEL. I'd say 5 to 10% will have a go at doing product lifecycle. Number of people, I think 5 or 6 people have asked about the Gantt chart. So should we deal with the Gantt chart now? I wouldn't get too hung up about Gantt chart. So the thing is, this comes into AF7, the timetable for your proposed campaign budget. How many marks are there for that? Help me out in a live chat, please. Goodbye, Aaron, by the way. Good to see you. How many marks are there for timetable? Help me out for AF7. I do know, but I'm hoping that 1 or 2 people might put it in the live chat. And here's why you don't have to get hung up about the Gantt chart. It's 4 marks. Too right. I think Leonie was first in. It's 4 marks. It's 4 marks. 4 marks for explaining to the examiner when your marketing activities will take place, how long they'll last, what the start and end time is. Now, I've put a little example there, and it's probably a little bit too detailed, but it does the trick, which is a sort of Gantt chart, isn't it? It's a Gantt chart which illustrates the flow from the top to the bottom for each of the 2 activities I was describing, how long they take, when they start, when they finish. You don't have to produce it in a table like that. You could simply say, for radio ads, we will start with 2 days of preparing. Then for the next 3 months, we will run the radio ads every Tuesday. And each month, we will do a follow-up activity to follow up those who have responded to the ads. You know, that's all it's about. So don't get too worried about producing a really clever Gantt chart with all kinds of different colors and diagrams and stuff. The examiner just wants to know your realistic information as to when your campaign is going to take place. And you can do it by way of a chart or a table or just words. But don't forget, it's only 4 marks. It really isn't worth getting too worried about, I would say. Hopefully that answers the question on Gantt charts. Let's have a look. What else we've got here? Avneet saying, can you please explain product life cycle a little more? I certainly can. So don't forget the product life cycle, whilst it's sometimes associated with a product in a business, it can also be associated with an industry or a market. And the basic idea of the product life cycle is that markets go through phases of either introduction, when they first get launched, rapid growth, when there are lots of new competitors, lots of significant increase in demand, and that's associated with high growth, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100% per annum growth in demand. And then slowly the rate of growth tails off a bit. So that's what's known as the maturity phase. And often in the maturity phase, maybe where growth is, 2, 3, 5%, relatively slow. What's happened by then is that the leading players have by and large established themselves. Brands are well known, price becomes more of an issue in terms of how to compete, and you may even have some firms leaving the market, but there's less activity in terms of ins and outs of the market, and then over time demand starts to tail off as alternatives arise, and therefore you're into the decline phase. That's basically all the product life cycle is. Demand changes over time from slow growth, from introduction to fast growth to slow growth to decline. And the reason why that's relevant to this unit is that that has implications for your marketing campaign. So you might decide that you might have a slow growing product that looks like it's about to start declining, where you might introduce what's known as an extension strategy to try and sort of prolong the life of that product a bit more. Maybe some new packaging, maybe a different price, or maybe some new distribution channels. So that's really all it's about. And all you do with the product life cycle is you just try to apply the market, apply the stages of the life cycle to the information you're given. And that's what we did in our session when we were looking at justification. So hopefully that does the trick. What have we got here? Alex is saying, what's the best way to structure your work? Well, I think, don't forget, the way to think about this is there's two documents, activity 1, activity 2, and really the structure just needs to have some sensible headings. So you might have a heading introduction. Off you go, a couple of sentences, then I'd get straight into aims and objectives, maybe even say AF2, aims and objectives, go through what the aims of the business are, set your objectives, explain them. That's that one done. Then I go on to a heading that says AF3, research pack. And your next subheading might be key themes from the secondary research, key findings from the primary research, and deal with them. And then you'd have another heading that says AF4, justification of our marketing mix, and then just write your SWOT analysis, write your PESTEL analysis. That's it. That's how you'd structure the document. 2 or 3 pages, 3.5, 4 pages max, nicely laid out, broken up. That's your document done. After an hour and a half, leave it, set up another document and go into your marketing mix, AF5, marketing message, marketing mix, and just basically use the assessment focuses as the headings and maybe break it up with some subheadings. That's the way I'd do it. I wouldn't worry too much about any particular layout. Just give the examiner, make it really easy for them to see what you're trying to do. Avnit's saying, what do you mean by we can write headings in a research pack? So yeah, so on your 2 pages of notes, you can have your headings listed as things to remember, because it's not a pre-prepared plan. It's not a pre-prepared campaign. It's not a pre-prepared timetable. So you can have your headings listed on your 2 pages of notes. So just take those and use those headings. In fact, I think our template has those as well, doesn't it? So you won't need to worry about the headings. Write them on your 2 sides of notes. Or if you wish, you can write them on your research pack. No problem at all. Here we go. A question on justification. How many points do we need to make for each letter on PESTEL and SWOT? 1 to 2 points for each. Yeah, well, I think the danger of writing, particularly with PESTEL, the danger of writing too many is that you don't need to do 2 for each. So for SWOT, I would be tempted to do 1 for each. I would say something like, in fact, why don't I show you a little example? Sometimes it's easier to show it, isn't it? Yeah, let me just show you an example. So for SWOT, I would say, look, we've picked out, for this report, we've picked out the most important strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, and then just write a bit about each. And I think that does the trick. So here's my effort. So SWOT analysis, key threat. And I've highlighted in yellow there where I'm applying the research pack to the sentence or 2. I've just said key threat, at-home beauty services. And then it goes on to explain that that's something that the business doesn't do, but it looks like that's an increasing demand in the market. So that's all you need to do. Do I have a... there we go. Now I just picked out 1. So I just pick out 1 of each. PESTEL, I definitely wouldn't do 2 for each of the letters. I might even just say, look, the business is affected by all aspects of the external environment. We've picked out 4, the 4 most important parts of PESTEL, and then do 1 for each. So I think it's more important to develop them fully, develop a point fully in context, than it is to give the examiner a long shopping list of all sort of generic points that might be relevant. So I would just say, look, from the research pack, maybe social and technological factors appear to be really important to the business and to our campaign. Therefore, we've picked out those 2, plus maybe an ethical one or whatever, an economic one. Yeah. So don't feel as though you have to have page after page after page of different points for each of the letters, because that's going to waste you a lot of time. Hopefully that answers that question. So 1 or 2 technical questions here. Does our font have to be 10? Can it be smaller? No, it can't be. Smaller than 10. It is 10. Can you annotate your research pack with theory? What a good question. Yes, you can if you wish. Yeah, there's no reason why not. So you can do whatever you want with your research pack to annotate it, highlight it, and the same with your 2 pages of notes. The only thing you can't do is write any pre-prepared marketing plans, campaigns, or timetables. But if there is some useful stuff that you want to think about, no reason why not. Maybe something about product life cycle, no reason at all. Can you write notes on a research pack that aren't specifically annotations? Yeah. Yes, you can. That's what the student guide says. It says what you can and can't do. Harry, this is a good question. And the answer is no, I think. Can we have a document? Maybe I'll ask Karen and others in the chat just to confirm this, because obviously every centre has its own regulations, but they should all I'm pretty sure that you can't. Can you have a document pre-prepared with headings and subheadings? The answer, I'm pretty sure, is no, because that would be a pre-prepared document and plan. You have to start with a clean document. I'm pretty sure about that. Absolutely sure about it, in fact. So there we go. You can't do it, but you can have headings in your notes. What else we got here? Can you put on your notes what PESTEL and SWOT mean? Of course, absolutely you can, yeah. You can have an aid memoir, and that's specifically mentioned, for example, in the student delivery guide. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. You can have little aid memoirs as to what's in SWOT or what's in PESTEL, although hopefully you'll know by the time you go in. Here we go. Trying to do as many as possible. Here we go. Let's have a look. Is it possible? It's a good question. Is it possible to merge SWOT and PESTEL together? Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep it simple. Just deal with SWOT. Do with PESTEL or product life cycle. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, Karen's just confirmed. Yeah, you can have headings. You can't have anything other than headings and subheadings. I thought so. Luke's saying, when writing themes, key themes, and reliability and validity of research, so this is AF3, do we need to link to the aims and the marketing mix? Yes, if you want to get to Mark Band 3 and Mark Band 4, absolutely you do. So pick a key theme from the secondary research and link it to your objectives, which you'll have done in AF2. Link it to your marketing mix and say, for example, maybe a key theme is that an economic downturn is affecting the market. Well, that is definitely going to impact our objectives, and it's also going to impact our approach, for example, to price and promotion. So the more you can link all aspects of your reports back to the business and back to your aims and objectives and to your proposed marketing mix, it brings it all together. It's a high-level skill, but the more you do it, the more you're into merit. Well, the more you're into distinction territory, I would say. Axel Jot says, can we use the product lifecycle on the service? Absolutely, yeah. Too right. It's not just about, a product is a good or a service, isn't it? So, yeah, absolutely. The product lifecycle refers to demand for the product. A product can be a service, it can be a good, it can be a combination of the two. So, absolutely. What's the saying? Do you still recommend to use SWOT and product lifecycle rather than PESTEL? Your choice. Your choice. I know what I'd do, which will be SWOT and product lifecycle. I know what most learners do, which is SWOT and PESTEL. It doesn't matter. One is not better than the other. All that matters is that you give it a good go, but don't spend too long doing them, would be my comment to that. Here's a good question. How do we compare the 4 Ps to the market? Well, don't forget, in part B, you will be told lots of information about the business. What products it sells, what prices it sells at, what distribution it uses, what's the reputation of the business. So we'll learn a lot in part B in that one page. That will be written in such a way that you can compare it with information about the market in part A. So that's a really good way, as we saw when we were looking at marketing mix, of comparing. You might compare a price of a product for the business with the average price in the market. You might compare an approach to promotion by the business with the market. So that's how you do it. Use the information you get in part B. Ali's asking, is it 4 or 7 Ps? Good question. Well, the answer is the mark band, or the mark scheme, says that there should be a good level of detail on the 4 Ps. This is what the mark scheme says. So that's price, product, place, and promotion. So the main 4 Ps, you need a good level of detail. So you must address all 4 of those. And the mark scheme also says reference to the other 3 Ps where relevant. So I think I would take from that is it's likely to be relevant. So at least address 1 or 2 of them and maybe all 3 briefly. But the mark scheme says to get to mark band 4 for marketing mix, you need to have a good level of detail for the 4 Ps. So in theory, you could get away with just the 4 Ps, but why would you? You've got probably 45, 50 minutes to write AF5. So really, it's the most important assessment focus. Therefore, spend a few minutes writing about product, about process, people, physical environment, because a lot of students will just leave them out. But you have to deal with the 4 Ps. Sam's asking, do you think that the industry will be a niche market like open air cinema, or will it be a bigger known market? Well, we don't know, do we? It could be anything, couldn't it? We've had skate parks, we've had chocolate bar, pet food. We don't know. Don't worry about it. It's whatever it is. Just take your time to think about the market. And that's why our 2 pages notes is quite useful, our template, because it helps you think about what the product is, who buys it, where do they buy it, how much do they pay, all that kind of stuff. We've no idea what it will be, but it will be something hopefully accessible. Bilal's saying, how much time should we spend on the product life cycle? Well, the justification section is worth, let me think now, 12 marks. Hang on. It's been a long night. Let me go back. Almost there. I was close, wasn't I? 10 marks. So 10 marks. So your product life cycle, if you did it, is half of that, which I think is 5, roughly 2.5 minutes per mark. So 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes on your SWOT, 10 minutes on your justification or your PESTEL would be what I'd do. Raheel saying, can you show an example of a SMART objective? Well, I will. I will. If I can find one. Here we go. So don't forget, the MART scheme doesn't say your objectives have to be SMART, but it's a good thing. Don't do what a lot of students do and explain to the examiner what a SMART objective is. That's a waste of time. The examiner knows what a SMART objective is. Here's an example. So I quite like this approach for the 2 or 3 objectives you set, just to say what do you want to achieve, when, why, link it to the aims, how are you going to do it. So in this case, my SMART objective was for Shine Beauty, attract 500 trial customers through the 8 events. In other words, 500 new customers when in the first 2 months of the campaign, and then that's it. That's our objective. But don't just leave an objective lying there. Explain to the examiner why you want to do that. Well, the reason why you want to achieve it is because it should achieve or should help achieve one or more of the stated aims of the business. So we were told with Shine Beauty, the business wanted to reach a wider audience. It wanted to grow its customers. Therefore, by achieving lots of new customers coming to our events at Salons, that's consistent. And then we go on to spend a line or 2 saying, and here's how we're going to do it. It's a link to the marketing mix. So I think that's not a bad way. It's not the only way, but it's not a bad way to set out your objectives. And it's smart because it's specific. Is it measurable? Yes. Is it achievable? Hopefully. Is it realistic? Yeah. And is it time bound? Yes. But don't spend 10 minutes telling the examiner what a SMART objective is, because they know, and there's no marks for that. Stephen saying, what would you include in the introduction part for activity 2? Well, I would just repeat the main aims and the objectives. I'd copy them across and say, in this report, we're going to look at the marketing mixing campaign, but it's been designed to deliver the following aims and objectives. Just repeat them. I think that's a really good thing to do. Just copy them across and then get straight into the marketing mix. So I think that's how I would introduce activity 2. Just say, activity 2, this is our plan. but the plan has been designed to achieve these aims and objectives. And that's a good thing to do because then you can link back to them. Maybe even number the objectives, objective A, B, or C, maybe, and say, look, this in the marketing mix, you might say our approach to price is mainly focused on achieving objective C or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. But I would definitely have that at the start. Good question from Damien coming in. Hopefully we've covered quite a few here, but we've got time for some more. Is maximising the time for researching in part A crucial? Well, the whole point about the research pack is that it should be enough for you to do distinction level work in part B. So if you want to do a bit of research and understand the market a bit more, that's cool, that's allowed, but it's not a requirement. So the students who do best in part B in the exam haven't spent all night online researching the market. They've had a good night's rest, and they just have good exam technique, and they just break the exam up into sections and deal with each, and they use the information given to them in the research pack. That's all you need. But you're more than welcome to do some extra stuff if you wish. Jim, what happens if you can't find anything on the 4 Ps or the extra 3? Well, you will be given information. So in the research pack, you are told about the market, you are told about prices, told about products, told about methods of promotion, told about how products are distributed place. You're told that. And in part B, you will be told about how the business itself addresses those. So it's all in there for you. Laura's saying, where would we link back to aims and objectives? Well, to be honest with you, Laura, I'd be tempted to do it all the time. So linking back when you're talking about the research, or linking back when you're talking about your models, SWOT, PESTEL, and then all day long, I'd be linking back throughout my marketing mix. So for each of the 4 Ps plus the other 3, I'd try to put a sentence in that linked back to one or more of the objectives and the aims. Yeah, this is the glue that holds your report together. And it's the thing that raises your answer to a different level compared with most of the answers in the exam, which aren't linked and aren't in context. For even in the budget, link back to an aim or an objective. You don't have to do it in great detail, but linking all the time in part B. So throughout your marketing mix, throughout activity 1, throughout activity 2. So Ryan's asking, is it good to have 2 promotional activities you can nearly always use, like a prize competition and a brand building video campaign? All day long. Go in, but have some thought before you go into the exam as to the kind of campaigns you'd like to be able to use. So, as you probably know, now that it's appeared on the screen, I'm a big fan of the prize competitions because it's really easy to make them specific to the business, to have some wider costs, the cost of the promotion, the leaflets, the prizes, that all kind. You can have a nice wide range of costs, and you can link it to an objective. I'm a fan of social media campaigns, but don't just use those. Try and maybe include a little bit more variety in your campaign if you can. Maybe 3 elements rather than just 2. But yeah, if you're used to writing a really well applied campaign that says a prize competition, I've never found a case study where you can't apply it effectively. So I'd be using it. But don't just produce a vanilla prize competition. Link it. Make it really specific to the business, really specific to the business. That way your prize competition will be different to the other 15,000 prize competitions that get submitted. Here we go. Alex is saying, where can I find your template? Well, there's a link in the description to this video, and obviously we'll post it in comments as well, so you can go download that if you wish. Mandy is saying, how should we split up our time per section? Well, 70 marks, 3 hours, plus obviously quite a few learners will have a few extra minutes here and there for good reasons. So what's that? That's roughly 25 to 30, 23 marks per hour. So roughly 2.5 to 3 minutes per mark. I would split your time based on the marks. So the marketing mix, 20 minutes, 20 marks. That's the biggest section. So 45, 50 minutes minimum. The aims and objectives, 8 marks. So maybe 20 minutes on that. Try to allocate your time based on the marks that are available. Would be my suggestion. Kai is saying, how would we go about describing the current situation and promotion of the case study business? For example, Decreal Gear was an old case study. Well, the part B will tell you how the business promotes itself. So it'll tell you what it uses, and then you can just decide whether that's appropriate. Anthony's saying, on your research pack, can you write a structure, not a model answer? So what you mean by that is not a pre-prepared marketing campaign or timeline or budget. You can include headings in your notes, and you can also have, if you wish, in brackets, how many minutes to spend to write. No reason why not. That's not a pre-prepared plan, budget, or timeline. So absolutely. What have we got? There's some great questions. Apologies if I've not covered all your questions. Let's pick out a few different ones here. Jasmine saying, what would you research from part A? If you wish, you don't have to. You can maybe just do a bit of general internet search to learn a bit more about the market, see what competitors do, learn a bit more about it if you wish. You don't need to. I'd just be thinking about the business and about the research pack and how you might use it for SWOT or PESTEL or product lifecycle. Just be thinking about those. You don't have to do any extra research if you don't want to. Here's a good one on pricing. Do we need to learn different pricing strategies, e.g. penetration pricing? Well, if you can use specific marketing language like loss leaders or penetration pricing or price skimming, and if you can then justify that, for example, as part of your pricing strategy, that's going to get you the marks for terminology, isn't it? So that's going to raise the level of your report. So if there is a particular pricing tactical strategy you think is something you want to recommend as part of your report, then use that terminology, but don't spend time defining what it is. Just apply it. So let's say you've got a new product that you want to launch with a premium price to skim the early adopters. I've just described a pricing strategy. As long as I then apply that to the business and explain why I think that's the right strategy for that part of the mix, then that's really good quality content. Bill, I was saying, do we get marks on the introduction? Not specifically, but however, it is part of the marks, the 4 marks that are available in each activity 1 and activity 2 for layout and structure. So I think an introduction is not a bad thing to do. It gets you writing, and then you get straight into your different assessment focuses. So I would include one. What else have we got here? Karen's saying, are we allowed to pre-plan our PESTEL? Well, yeah, you can think about your PESTEL. Yeah, but the only thing you're not allowed to do is to go in with a pre-prepared marketing plan, campaign, or timeline, or budget. So you should be ready to write about your PESTEL, but you obviously can't write it as in copy and paste it in, but you should have thought through what the different elements are for sure. Stephen's saying, can you take the research pack home on Wednesday? Yes, you can, but your centre, for logistical reasons, may decide not to allow that, but that would be unusual. But yes, you can. It's low control. Mr. M1 Max, for the 2 pages, can I make bullet points about the marketing mix? Absolutely, you can, yeah. That's exactly what we've done in our template to help you draw out some of the key features. Rommel's saying, when we're writing about competitions, can we say it's oligopolistic? You can, but to be honest with you, it's not an economics exam, so it's not going to mean a lot to the examiners. So I'd be tempted not to use economics terms, but you should definitely talk about the impact of competition, who the main competitors are, and how your marketing mix is going to address maybe a competitive weakness or a strength for sure. What have we got here? Karen's saying, is the rationale the same thing as an intro? It's a funny one. The whole activity is called rationale, activity 1. And what it really means is the reason for what comes in activity 2, which is the campaign. But rationale really is structure. Activity 1, AF1 is really structure. That's where the marks come from. It's the overall structure that you get for activity 1. AABB, please answer. If you just remind me what you did, what you asked, I'll see if I can find your question. I've got maybe 5 minutes before we finish. Here's a good question from Eddie. What's the maximum promotional methods you should use? How do you get it to meet your budget? That's a good question, isn't it? So you shouldn't have a shopping list of 5 or 10 different promotional methods. Much, much better to have, let's say, 3 in your campaign and then develop them all fully. Yeah. So I'll maybe put an example of that on screen if I can find one. Much better to develop things properly than to have a shopping list of underdeveloped points. So here's an example. We went through this last night, didn't we? Where we were saying we were going to go with 3 elements of the campaign. We had a 50,000 budget. I said I was going to spend £15,000 on radio advertising. So the way I was thinking about structuring was just to say to the examiner, right, it's £15,000, but I know you want me to tell me why you're doing it, what you're going to do and when, but you've also asked for realistic costs and calculations. So I said, right, okay, here you go, Mrs. Examiner. So we're going to reach a wide audience. We're going to run radio ads, lots of detail, including Dr. Shine, inviting people to join her at an event. So there's lots of detail there about why and how we're going to run radio advertising. So you might do something similar if you're doing a prize competition. But then I left a few lines to tell the examiner, here's how I get to my £15,000. Now, it doesn't really matter whether this is right or not. No one's going to check your numbers. No one's going to check other than just seeing whether they're broadly realistic. So I just basically suggested, X amount per play and a little bit of wider cost for designing the radio ads. And I reckon that was more than enough for that part of the promotion. So coming back to Eddie's question, that would be one of maybe 3 promotional methods, because it's only 8 marks, isn't it? So what's the point of giving them 8 or 9 different bits of promotional methods? Only 8 marks plus 4 for the timeline. So don't waste too long coming up with a really sophisticated, detailed and long list of different promotional methods. Just pick 2 or 3 and develop them fully, I would say. Axel Jot saying, are there any big differences between products or goods and services in the way we structure the exam? Well, the only difference really is in relation to the 7 Ps, isn't it? In general, service businesses are better suited to the 7 Ps because we're dealing with the physical environment in which the product is delivered or the service is delivered. We're dealing with the people who deliver it, and we're dealing with the processes. Whereas for goods, like physical, tangible goods like chocolate bars or pet food, well, obviously, there's not so much about the extended marketing mix there. So in general, that's the main difference. I would be surprised if you couldn't apply the 7 Ps to any business. Jim, does activity 1 actually do get you most marks? Well, you know the answer to that. Activity 2 gets you 36. Activity 1 gets you 34. So I can do the maths. That's 2 more marks. Kai's saying, what should the marketing message include besides the strapline? Well, we went through this when we looked at AF5. So I do recommend you have a look at that video. By the way, for all these videos, I've timestamped them. So if you just want to go straight to the bit about the marketing message, you should be able to find that, okay? So the marketing message is more than a strapline. The marketing message is what do you want to communicate to your target audience in order to make your marketing campaign effective? What are you going to focus on? A strapline can be a really useful part of that, but a strapline on its own is meaningless. So the marketing message is basically saying, here's the overall communication that we want to get across. And that should then be interweaved into your marketing mix in your campaign. We had a great marketing message, didn't we, or strapline that was suggested on Friday night. Come to Shine Beauty, you won't regret it. And I've been thinking about that all weekend. It's hard to imagine a more effective strapline, I reckon. M1, why is it 2 pages of research and not 6 anymore? Well, because it is. And they give you the research. Oh, great question from Pleasy. What do you do if you've got budget left over? Well, I would always try and leave a bit of budget over, and I would just have a line that says, spare budget dash, we will use any spare budget to spend on the marketing or promotional activities that prove to be most effective during the campaign, comma, e.g. spending more on email marketing or more on pay-per-click advertising for the campaign or materials that are the most effective, or running an extra radio ad. So just have something that says any spare budget will be invested in the most effective elements of the campaign as the campaign progresses. And I think that's quite a smart way of dealing with budget that's left over. What have we got here? A few questions about process. Are we allowed to bring the annotated research pack into part B? Yes, you can. Yeah, you certainly can. Can I write that sentence in my notes? I just have a bit on the note that says spare budget. Well, you can if you want, yeah. No reason why not. Spare budget, allocate it to the most effective parts of the campaign. I'm sure you'll end up writing something. Yasmin's saying, what would you write for the introduction in activity 2? I would just have a little introduction line that says, here is our marketing campaign. And we've put it into 3 sections: the marketing mix and message, the different promotional elements of the campaign, the budget and the timeline, the timetable. And I'd just say, before I got into the marketing mix, I would just remind the examiner of what our aims and stated objectives are. I think I would just copy them across and say, our marketing mix that follows is designed to address the following aims and objectives. And then off you go. Right, I think we're almost done. I think, by the way, huge thanks to Karen and various other people in the live chat and to others who've been asking, who've been fielding lots of questions as we go. Karen said, can you do PESTEL and SWOT without mentioning the case study in section B? Impossible to do SWOT without mentioning the case study, because strengths and weaknesses are internal to the business. Therefore, it's impossible to write your SWOT, well, your strengths and weaknesses, without part B. You have to reference part B. Guys, we've done an hour. Stephen, you're very kind. We've done, what, 6 live streams in the last 8 days. So hopefully you've found some or all of them, or perhaps none of them, useful. These sessions are all being recorded, so if you have any further questions, anything that you've been furiously typing into the live chat and I've somehow managed to avoid, please do post them as a question into the comments once this video recording goes live, which is in about a minute's time. I'll try my best to answer those, plus anything else. Don't forget to go to the playlist if you want to catch up on any of the assessment focus information. Let's just change that screen there. Once you see it on Wednesday, that's it. You're on your own. All good. All will be good on Thursday when you go in. My final advice would be just use the research you're given. Keep on linking back to the business. Keep on linking back to the context. Apply, apply, apply. And most importantly, allocate your time efficiently. Don't forget, marketing mix, 20 marks, is the most important part. Well, that's activity 2. So don't leave yourself short of time. Be ruthless with your time on part B and just give it a good go. It's not a hard exam as long as you break it up into little chunks like we've been doing in these live streams and tonight. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed for all of you. Wishing you well. And if you're doing any of the other units as well, good luck with those. But for now, and a huge thanks to everyone who's joined me live on these various sessions, I'll say good night and all the best.